of us, and one of us will sometimes remember.
Oh my God.
Good job.
Good save.
Yeah.
High availability.
All right. So I'm going to pass this over to Eric.
Redundancy. Yeah.
I'm going to pass this
I'm
over.
redundant.
I'm going to pass this over to Eric. Y'all are in for a treat. He's an amazing speaker, and Eric will tell us if how he wants to handle questions and all that kind of good stuff. But carry on, man.
All right. Well, thank you very much for having me. I'm very excited to be here. I'm coming to you live from Phoenix, Arizona. Normally I'd be coming live from Colorado, but I'm traveling I actually was born and raised here. I'm going to answer some questions real quick that have already been asked of me. Number one, this is not Diet Dr. Pepper, and it's not even my regular Yeti, and I'm not happy about it. It's just the way it is. It's iced tea in a cup that's not keeping it cold. So there it is. I'm just throwing it out there. A lot of people ask, if you don't know what that means, I am well known for drinking way too much Diet Dr. Pepper. And so a lot of people check on me to make sure that I get available amounts. So again, thoroughly glad to be here. Man, it was a great group. As far as answering questions, I will leave some time at the end. Or you feel free to text it. I'm going to be watching several different things, so I probably won't see it, but I'll do my best. And Brian, if you want to interrupt me and say, "Hey, we have a question," I'm pretty casual, so I'm pretty easy going on that. So,
Yeah.
Can y'all see my screen? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, you should see this big old boy. I sure got a lot of feedback on how close that picture of my face was when we pushed that. Yeah. So I want to apologize for anybody having to look at my face that close up. Unless you're married to me, you shouldn't have to do that, and even my wife would rather not. But there it is. So let me tell you a little bit about who I am. Again, my name is Eric Johnson. I'm a senior developer advocate for serverless. On here, I put my Twitter account and my email. While I don't get back instantly, I answer questions all the time, trying to help out. I'm a serverless guy. Been a serverless guy forever, pretty much since the day they announced it. I remember AWS announcing it, and I remember going, well, that's it. That's what I want to do. And so I've been doing it ever since. I don't know if I'm the best. I'm probably not the worst, but I will try to answer. And the fun thing about my job is if I can't answer the question, I usually know the folks who can. So I'm the dummy in the room, and that's a good place to be. I learn a ton of stuff. I've always said, if you're the smartest person in the room, change rooms. And so that's what I did. I'm the dummy in the room, and I learn, and I can connect with people. A little bit more about me. I'm a father of 5. If you're familiar at all with the Amazon principle of 2 pizza teams, I am a 2 pizza expert. I myself am a 2 pizza team. I love pizza. I eat a lot of pizza, and I'm very opinionated on what should be on pizza and that pineapple should not be on pizza. So that debate has also gone around Twitter. I am a musician. I was a drummer. I went to school for drumming. Couple things that'll help you understand what I'm speaking. I call them rules, but they're not really rules. If you've seen me speak, and I've seen a couple of familiar faces you have, but here's the rules when I'm speaking. It'll help out a lot. The first is, this is any number I want it to be. I'm going to hold this up and I'm going to say something like, yeah, there were 99 of us. There were 7 of us. There were whatever. And people are, is that a 1? Is that? So I will say that these are quotes, not apostrophes. I know that. And these are thumbs. I do this a lot too. I do tell 1-finger jokes. I'm absolutely comfortable with that. I will tell you though, if that makes you uncomfortable, I'm still comfortable with that as well. So I'm good either way. So we'll have a good time. So previously, before I started with AWS, I've been a solutions architect. I've been a senior software architect. I was a pastor for 12 years. I have quite a history in evangelism, literally. I've done a lot of different things in life. I've made pizza, everything. But this combination of speaking publicly and developing is my absolute favorite thing to do, and I love to do it. So I want to go back to tell you, I'm a father of 5. Like I said, I have 3 boys, 2 girls. And I had this interesting conversation with my 2 girls. They are 10 and 8. And my 10-year-old is a lot like me. She is loud. She can talk to anybody. She is over the top, cup full of extrovert. And my 8-year-old is just like my wife, and she is practical, to a fault. She's artistic, but she's practical. And the other day they were sitting down playing, and this is just this week, they were sitting down playing. The 8-year-old was sitting down and she was playing dolls, and she had her horses out, and it was a Western. And they were in the West, and she had the 2 horses. She had it all set out. And my 10-year-old decided to play with her. She came over, and they were setting things up. And the 10-year-old said, or the 8-year-old said, well, they need to get some water. My 8-year-old is Gracie, and my 10-year-old is Sophie. And Gracie said, well, the horses are going to need some water. So Sophie says, here's what we do. There's a magic bag. And if we sing, the horses get water. So we have to sing to give them water. And Gracie said, there's no magic. There's no singing. It's just a Western. They get the water from the thing. They just stop it. Well, yeah, but there should be magic. There should be water. There should be something. No singing, no magic. This is how we do it. My 2 girls do things in very different ways. And as developers, we do the same thing. We look at things, and AWS is very popular for saying, here we go. Here's the tools. There's a lot of times 10 different ways to do it. Do what works for you. Okay, so today I'm going to show you several different ways of doing serverless or doing containers. I'm going to ask you if you're not tired, if you can mute. That'd be great, because I keep thinking someone's asking questions, so I don't want to jump over there. All right, so let's jump in and get started. And then we're going to do a little bit of PowerPoint, but mostly code. So don't look at this and go, oh man, is this all code? No, or is this all PowerPoint? Nope, it's not. It's just a little bit to kind of get you introduced to container image support for AWS Lambda. Now, we've just announced this reInvent this year, and it is a change or it's another option for how you can do Lambda functions. So first of all, let's talk about what it is, okay? And we'll get more into that, so we won't cover everything here. But what it allows you to use a consistent set of tools for containers and Lambda-based applications. So what it does is it says, hey, we already use kind of container tools to build our images and stuff. We'd like to use that for Lambda functions. Now you can. It is a larger deployment package that you can do, up to 10 gigabyte now. So where that really comes in handy is if you're doing machine learning or data analytics or large dependencies or any number of things that take larger packages, whereas doing it zip file still is limited to 250. And then you benefit still, just like zip files, you still benefit from the sub-second automatic scaling, high availability, the native service integrations, and the pay for use. So with this, when you package a Lambda function as a container, you still get all the benefits of it being a Lambda function, but you get the benefits of a different type of packaging, okay? So we talked about what it is. It's important to say what it isn't, okay? And I want to make sure this is clear, because a lot of, well, let me read this. It says a service for running any container image in AWS Lambda. And that isn't what it is. So I want to be clear that it is not a one-to-one. I can pick up any container, drop it in this, and it's just going to work. Now, that isn't the way it works. It's still the Lambda function. It's still an eventing system where it's driven by events and not ports and listening on ports and things like that. And so not just any container can be picked up and dropped in. However, you can modify containers and modify your code to work within a Lambda function. Some of my tea. All right, so let's talk about what that looks like. See, the developer experience for building a container image is as a developer, you build this container locally, and this can be in your CI/CD. So we on the left side here, we just say container image. You can be doing it in a CI/CD process, some type of automated process. You can be doing it at your desk, depending on where you are. But the basic idea is you're going to take and you're going to build the image that's going to be the backend for your Lambda function. You kind of have the whole thing's built in there, the OS, everything you need, right? And it's built using Docker files, some type of system like that. And then it's pushed to the Amazon Elastic Container Registry. Okay, so you upload that, and you have to have a repo ready for that. Okay, then what happens is you then create or update a function. And during this process, what happens is the Lambda service actually pulls the image from the ECR repository, and it optimizes the image, and then it deploys the image to Lambda. And it keeps that close to Lambda and cached and ready to go. That's how we're able to get that sub-second speed, but still larger packages, Okay. Once all that's done, and anything else you're doing, if you're, there are different things you might be doing that during the create function process. Once that happened or is complete, then the Lambda becomes active and it's ready for invocation. So we can run these Lambda functions that are backed by image containers. And so that's the basic process of building a Lambda function based on image containers. Now we're not going to stop there. Obviously, there's we're talking about building serverless applications like this. So let's see. Let's explain a couple things. Now, in your container image, there's a couple of things that are needed. First, remember I said you can't just take any container and throw it on there. You have to have what we call the runtime interface clients. I don't think you guys are seeing this, but I'm going to move it just in case. There we go. All right. So we have to have the runtime interface client, or RIC, or I say RIC, and that's probably wrong, but there it is. And the RIC is a package. It's in the container, and it manages the interactions between the AWS Lambda and your function code, between the AWS Lambda service and your function code. And the runtime API, which are part of this, and the extension API, these define a simple HTTP interface for runtimes to receive invocation events from Lambda and respond with the success or failure indications. So this is kind of and I dare say the magic sauce that allows your code to work in a Lambda environment, this event-driven environment, right? And so if you were to create your own containers, if you wanted to take a container and say, I want to use this, this would need to be installed and wired up. I'm not sure I'm ready for that. Well, good news. Hang on a second, let me try that again. Good news, boy, that just broke my flow. I lost my thing. Good news, there it is. Each of the AWS-based images for Lambda include a runtime interface client, okay? So what this means is we have, for each of the supported runtimes, we have a base image that you can start with, right? And so back on when I walk through that flow, if you start with the Lambda function or the base image, then you can add things to that. It's already wired up with the runtime interface client to handle wiring the Lambda service into your code, right? So this is very important. If you do say, hey, Eric, you know what? I don't want to start with your base images. We want to build our own. And there might be reasons that you're doing that. We've had some folks that are doing that already. Then you need to understand that the runtime interface client is required. And we're not going to show that today. We're going to deal more with the base images and then how that works. But just so you know, this is important to it. The second thing that's part of the base images is the runtime interface emulator, or the RIE, or the RI. Okay, and this provides a runtime interface emulator, it's right in there, for you to test your functional locally. So you can have your function locally down on your machine, and you can invoke it in the container to see if your code's going to work. And I'll show you how that works in just a minute. But with two of these, like I said, you're welcome to say, hey, we're going to build our own images. We want to do that in our process. But really, honestly, I encourage you to take a look and start with an AWS managed image. That's really a best practice bottom line. This is going to make your life a lot easier. Look at starting with an AWS managed image, and we have links to them at the end of tonight. I'm going to give you a link that shows you some of the resources that I'm referring to, and this is in there so you can see that. All right. So let's go back to our experience, okay? Now, earlier we were showing this. You notice there's now a squirrel on here. What's really cool is if you're familiar with SAM, you can get right into creating container image-based Lambda functions already. SAM handles a lot of this process for you of pushing the image to the repository, deploying the Lambda function, connecting the image to it, and setting up for ready to invoke, all with a simple SAM deploy command. Okay, you can use SAM build locally, and I'm going to show you tonight how you can use these local container images to build and test and do all sorts of things. The other fun thing is our CDK also provides a development environment for building container-based images or container image support for Lambda functions using the Cloud Development Kit. Now, I know there's a lot. Well, I use CDK, I use SAM, things like that. What's fun is both use. And again, this goes back to, I do it differently. This is how I like to do it. I'm a SAM guy. I've been using SAM forever. I know it really well. However, I've been getting into the CDK, so I kind of go back and forth. So how you want to do it, it's up to you. Now, if this little guy on here, this pancake or this otter with pancakes on his belly doesn't look familiar to you, there was a CDK day done last year, and the mascot for the CDK was Pancakes the Otter. So there you go. That's why he's on here. If it doesn't make sense, I even have a shirt with him on it. So, all right. So one other thing to understand when you're using containers for Lambda functions, when you're deploying or when you're building and deploying, you have to work with the Amazon Elastic Container Registry security model, okay? And there's two parts to it. First of all, the user you're using has to have IAM permissions, that's identity and access management permissions, to access the registry. However, in addition, your Docker client must authenticate to push or pull images as well. And a Docker client is looking for a specific login. And there's two ways to handle this. If you remember, this is any number I want it to be. So 2 ways to handle this. I can get to 4, but I have to take my shoes off. It gets really weird. So, all right. The first way is you can retrieve an authentication token and authenticate your Docker client to your registry. And it looks like this. I've got some dummy authentication in there. And that's valid for 12 hours. So once you do it once, it's going to stay there. You use it 12 hours later, it expires. You need to do it again. The second is to use the Ecr Credentials Helper. Okay. And this is something that AWS built. It's in GitHub. This is a QR code. It'll get you to it. This is also on the resource link at the end, but in case you want to look at it. Also, you can use our URL shortener here, s12d.com/ecr-creds-helper. You install this, and it will work with your local credentials to always keep you authenticated. So it's really handy if you're using it on your local client. All right. All right, that's enough PowerPoint. That's not what you guys came to see. So let's see some code. Now, I'm going to be real honest. I'm an architect. I'm probably not you're not going to go, wow, he's an amazing developer. You might, but then your standards are low. But I'm going to walk you through some things. I got 2 fingers and I still fat finger with the worst of them. You'll see me copy in some code. You'll see me type some code. So we'll see how this goes. Here for a moment, though, it looks like we've had some conversation going on. I'm going to jump in here. Brian, have we had any questions that I should look at?
No, it was more, I think it was just more comments. Someone said there were comments about Rick and Rick rolled.
Okay.
Yeah. There was a question about memory, any memory limitations on code size, taking into account support libraries.
So the support library. So again, your 10 gigabyte in your package size, your storage. The memory, which you'll see, we also increased that as well, is up to 10 gigabyte. So you have more memory available to you, which also translates to up to 6 vCPUs.
Yep.
So, yep.
That's it.
All right, great. All right. I think I saw one other question here. Let me pop that up real quick here. Do Lambda invocations impact ECR get image? No. So what happens? That's a good question. When, just like with the zip package Lambda function, when your Lambda function is created, it becomes immutable. So what it does is we actually grab the image from ECR and then it's stored in cache. And we'll never talk to ECR again until you either create a new function with that image or update this function with that image. So it does not impact the get image quotas. Yeah. All right. So let's jump into some code here. All right. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you 3 ways to build an application with using container image support for Lambda functions. Now, Brian, I'm going to ask you real quick, is this text big enough for y'all? Okay, you're muted, but I heard it. Okay, good. All right.
It's okay.
I think you give me a okay, thumbs up. All right, good. All right. So first thing we're going to do is we're just going to go real simple, okay? And I talk to these folks all the time, and man, I encourage you, if you are one of these, I'm not judging you out loud, but I am judging you. So one thing I would encourage you to do, man, use a framework. When you're building serverless, use a framework. Obviously, SAM, I love SAM, I use SAM, but it's not the only one. CDK, serverless.com, There's lots of others, and I could go through and name a bunch, but use a framework. But we do have some folks. I remember sitting at a dinner one time with one of the head developers for Serverless.com. We were sitting together, Alex Debris. We were sitting together having this dinner, and there was someone else in the room. And he said, yeah, I'm building my own serverless application. I said, oh, yeah, well, what framework are you using? I don't use a framework. I hand roll it all, do it all myself. Man, that's great, but man, you're burning a lot of development time. A lot of things have already been done. So I encourage you to look at a framework. And today I'm gonna show you raw without a framework, and then we're gonna look at the framework. So, all right, so let me jump in here. So the first thing we're gonna do is in the raw, we're going to create we need two files. Okay. So the first thing we're going to create our app.js file, and we're going to create, you can see I love this. It gives away that I've already typed these. So this may surprise you. I've done this before. So, all right. So we're going to create those two files. We're also going to do an Npm Init. Now I'm doing everything Node. Most of what I'm going to show is going to be the same, whether you're Node, Python, Go, .NET, whatever. I'm a Node guy. Think of that what you will. So, all right. So we're going to initialize this, and all this does is say, hey, this is a Node application, and it creates our dependency. And I'm just going to jump through everything and say yes. So now we have our package file. So these are the only three files we really need to create our function. Okay. The app is going to be our code itself. Okay, and I'm just going to copy and paste that in. We're not going to spend a lot of time there. All this is going to do, and while I said we're building applications, I'm not going to teach code. We're not going to teach the SDKs, things like that. What I want you to understand is how to use the containers. So we're just going to do a simple hello world. Okay, that's all this is, and it just creates a response. In the response, I've got to try catch because I had some promise stuff going on, but I don't now. This is a very simple application. It's just going to come back and say status code 200 and hello world. All right. So that is our app. I'm extremely creative, and you probably recognize that already. So the second thing we're going to do, we're spend a little more time in, is our Docker file. Okay. Now, our Docker file is what's going to tell Docker what to do. If you're new to containers, which I'm going to be real honest, I am somewhat new to containers. I use serverless. I don't wrestle with that. I have containers set up for when I'm doing local deployment with my SAM, things like that. But past that, I hadn't really done a lot. I'm loving them. I'm actually absolutely loving them. But if you're new to them, a Docker file is a manifest or a set of instructions that will create the image. It tells the image what should be in there. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we need to grab our base image. And so our base image, and I am going to copy and paste this because then I don't spell things wrong. In our base image, this tells it where to grab the image. So this is a public.ecr.aws. This is the public ECR repo, which just released again at reInvent. Very handy under Lambda, and I'm grabbing the Node.js, and the version or tag is 12. Okay, so it's saying grab that existing image. That existing image is going to have the RIC, which you guys say Corey's going to make fun of me from. That's not the first time Corey's made fun of me. I'm okay with that. I say usually when I'm saying IAM, I say I am, and he had a field day with that. So that's the first thing we're doing. Now, once we get that down, okay, so we're saying we're going to grab that image, and then we're going to interact with that image, and we're going to copy from our local directory, right where we're working. We're going to copy that app.js file and the package.json file. Now, and we're going to just drop it into the root like that, where we enter into it. So what this does is this says we need our code file, and we need our dependencies manifest. If you're a Python developer, this would be a requirements file. If you're a Java developer, it would be something else. On a .NET, it would be something else. You're welcome to talk amongst yourselves on what that would be. But all that's doing is saying, get that from my local machine into the image, okay? Then what I want to do, on the image, I'm actually going to run npm install, all right? In Python, it'd be pip install. And all that does is that installs all the dependencies into my container. And then finally, and this is the one that might not make as much sense, we're going to pass an entry command. And I'm going to say, go to the app file that we just said, and I'm going to give it and run the function handler. Okay. And so if you look in that app file that I created, I have a function exports.handler. This could be Lambda handler, it could be Bob, it could be Sue, it doesn't matter. Okay. So that's it on the Docker file. Very simple. This is a quick way to build it when it's raw. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to actually create a local image. And that is a simple command, Docker build with -t for tag of hello Boston, and pull, it says do it from the local directory, the directory that we're in. So let's get here. So when I do that, it's going to create a new local image. Hopefully. Oh, it did. Okay, that's good. All right. So we have this one called hello Boston, and it looks, you can see I had some cache stuff there. I could change some stuff. I could change the name of it. If we were, let's show you what that looks like. We'll say hello Boston 2 for the moment. Okay, still very quick. It was able to grab the cache part is the actual Lambda node image. So all it's adding is just quickly dropping this stuff over there, and off we go. All right, so we have this local image by the first one, the hello Boston, and it's ready to be tested. So because we have the RIE, the emulator installed in the image, I can then say, what I'm going to say is I'm going to say Docker run -p, so I'm tell it what port I want you to map internally to externally. Oh, hey, I got a little crazy on there. And then we're going to say hello Boston, and then latest, because it's always the latest that it creates. So what that's going to do is that's not going to invoke the Lambda, but it's going to make it so that I can invoke it. All right. So we'll bring that up. And now it's just sitting there and it's listening extra on my local host on 8080. It's being mapped to 9000 in there. So let's get rid of this here. It's a little crowded. Let's bring up another window so you can see them side by side. Ooh, my machine seems to be crawling. Doesn't like me. I should have done a Cloud 9. All right. So from here, I can do a simple curl. Okay. Now notice this address. I'm hitting 9000, and I'm sorry, 9000 is the external, 8080 is the internal. And then I also add 2015-03-31 -functions, -implications, and then the data. And that may seem like an obscure random thing. It's in the documentation for the emulator, but this is where the emulator is installed and can test that function. So theoretically, if I hit enter, you notice over here, it fired off everything, and I got a response of status 200 body message, and there you go. And that's how you can do it raw. So if you wanted to say, you know what, we're going to build a pipeline that's going to create these. We don't want to use a framework. That's the basics of what you're doing. Okay. So what I can now do is I can then I can deploy this. So let's go ahead and deploy it. Okay. So what I need is an ECR repository to deploy this to. So for the moment, there's like anything else, there's multiple ways you can create this. I'm going to create mine through the term or the command line. Now, normally I SAM everything. So I can come in here. I have a separate folder called ECR repositories that we'll look at later that I'll bring the template over to. But I would manage these in SAM. And we'll talk about, when we're looking at the SAM template, we'll talk about where they're not in the same template in just a minute. So let's go ahead and create that. And all I'm doing is I'm saying, hey, I want to create an ECR. Let me see if I can get it. There we go. An ECR repository. I'm going to name it Hello Boston. I want image tag mutability. I want it to be immutable. I don't want it I don't want to overwrite tags. I want it to scan on push, so that scans for issues, things like that. So once I hit that, I hit enter, and we should get a response here in a minute. Okay. Oh, hey. So guess what I didn't do? I didn't specify my region. Now, I use a local plugin in my ZSH called ASP to specify my profiles. If you've ever heard me speak, the reason, or if you've seen sessions with Sam, the reason I do this is I used to do contract work for multiple companies. And I may have deployed the wrong stack into the wrong company before. So I make myself declare a profile every time. I do not have a default profile on my account. Now, unless I usually work with this on AWS, less likely, but that's just become habit. So let's try that again. We're going to try creating that repository again now that I have a profile set up, and it already exists. So let's actually create another one just so you can see it. There's a faster way to do this, and I always forget how it is. So we're going to say, this is my raw one, okay? All right. So there you go. There's my repository. And the thing that matters to me is this URI, okay? So that's what I want in my URI, okay? So now what I can do is I can actually push to this. Now here's a fun little thing. Like I said before, we got to deal with. So let's go ahead and kill this so you can see more. That's the one thing about presenting is you end up working with very small things. So let me just kill this one here. All right. So one of the fun things about this, you got to understand the push commands and all those kinds of things. Really handy is if I go to my actual ECR and I refresh this. And there's my Hello Boston Raw. This is the one we just created. If I click into that, I have this wonderful button up here that says View Push Commands. Everything I need is right here to get stuff to my repo. So first of all, I could go in here. This is that login, and I'll just redo that so you can see it happen here. I have the Credentials Helper as well, but we'll just go ahead and set that token. Okay, so if I do that, you can watch here, and there we go. Login succeeded. So now I have 12 hours with this token. So the next thing I need to do is I need to build. I've already built this one, so actually we're calling it raw. So we're gonna line that up. Since I changed the name to raw, we're gonna do that one more time, and I'm gonna say build that and give it a tag of raw. So there, we've done that. And then the last thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tag it with the Docker URI that it needs to go to. So I'm saying tag this latest one to the Docker URI plus the latest tag. Okay, so I'm gonna go back here. I'm gonna paste that, and there you go. Now I've created that local tag as well. And the final thing I can do is this is the Docker push command. So I can go there, and there we go. So now we're pushing. And it's running, and some pretty good size stuff there. But luckily, I'm on the Amazon network, so it's going pretty quick. I did this on my mom's network. It did not go quick, so that's why we're here. All right. So by doing that, I now have this image ready to use in a Lambda function. It's good to go. That was pretty good size. What that last part of it was 305 meg. All right. So let's go ahead and go to Lambda. So now if I want to create one, I can use the CLI to create one if I wanted to, but we're going to do this a little differently. We're going to create a new function, and I'm going to choose a container image. And down here, we're going to call it Hello Boston Raw. People are going to wonder what I'm doing. What, Boston Raw, what is that? Then I'm going to go in here. I'm going to browse the images, and I'm going to select the repository, the Boston Raw, and I'm going to choose the latest here. I'm going to select the image, and I'm going to create the function. Now, that's going to take just a few moments to get everything in place. It's copying all of that over, moving that into cache like I talked about. And while we're doing that, I'm going to pop over and see if we have any questions going on. All right. Okay. All right. So thank you. I love your style too, Kim. I appreciate that. Are there any scaling differences between Lambda and Lambda containers? Should we expect both of them? Okay, so I'm assuming by this you mean Lambda zip and Lambda containers by the packaging style. No, they should be pretty much identical. Again, because of the way we package the containers up and put them in cache ready to be invoked, they should be. And then of course they're warm, once they're invoked first time. So no, there should not be a big difference. All right, so. Okay. All right. So most people just drop it. Okay. So this is done. We've created this, and let's go ahead and let's test this. Okay. So we're gonna go. Hang on a minute here. Let me get on the function itself. Okay. I'm not gonna lie to you, my machine is not liking life right now. So we're gonna do, let's try getting out of this. There we go. Hello, Boston Raw. And goodness gracious. I'm gonna do this here real quick. Bear with me a moment. Okay. I don't seem to be able to click on layers, which we don't do layers with the function images right now. So, all right, let's do this. I wonder if it's a problem. It's always good to do this live. So there we go. There we go. Okay, so I probably missed it. It's probably somewhere else. Okay, so I'm on the dashboard that I recognize. Okay, so now that I'm selected the function itself, I can test this. I'm going to create an event. So Boston Raw event, okay, like so, and no dashes. I know that. Okay, there we go. And I don't care. My function isn't worrying about the event, so I don't care what comes in. So once I've created that, I do a test, and there you go. Now we have a full-fledged Lambda function that's based on a container image that honestly doesn't do much, and it really doesn't make sense to use containers for just a simple little function like this. But now you get the idea of building it raw, or building it if you have some type of automated system, you can do that. So hopefully that gives you an idea of how the containers kind of work and how they line up. What I want to do now is talk about building applications. Let's look at the frameworks and see kind of how they work, okay? So let's jump over to my terminal here, and we're going to get out of raw, and we're going to do SAM first. Now you notice here, let's go over here. I have a CDK. These are just empty folders, but SAM creates a folder on the build. So what we're going to do with SAM is you have this wonderful little command called SAM Init. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to say SAM Init, and that SAM Init. Let's blow this up so y'all can see it just a little better. Close these out. All right. Oh, my machine not liking life. Okay, here we go. So now that I can say if I want AWS Quick Start templates or my own custom template, we want Quick Start templates. We're just going to use one of the ones that are built in. Here's where I need to make a decision. Do I want zip? An artifact is a zip download and push to S3, or do I want an image? Artifact is an image upload to ECR image. Well, this is all about container images, so we're going to use image. So I choose 2, and then it's going to ask me again what language I want to use. I'm going to go with Node again, and then we're going to call this SAM, container. Okay, so now we know we're doing, now we just do SAM. All right, keep it easy. So now what it's doing is it's grabbing down everything it needs to do the work. So it's grabbing the image or pulling the template, I'm sorry, and we're done. Okay, so now you can see over here, I've got a full SAM application ready to go. Now, it's pretty simple. It's a hello world. It doesn't do a lot, but everything you need is in place to start building upon it. It's a framework, or I'm sorry, it's a scaffolding. There's the word. All right, so let's look at the different parts of this. First of all, just so you can look, the function, this looks familiar to us. We still have a Docker file, and it's doing the same thing, okay? Boy, I gotta figure out what is killing my machine here. Bear with me a moment. Nothing else is open. All right, so it's doing the same thing as before, NPM, so that hasn't changed. We're still doing the same Docker thing, but SAM does a lot of that for you, okay? We have our application file. This one also pretty much a hello world. We got a lot of comments in here that you can see that help to explain what it is, but it's the same thing. Okay. It does if you want to include. In fact, we can do this. Let's go ahead just real quick. What this does is this uses Axio, which is a npm package to do calls. We can uncomment all this, and it will actually tell you my IP when I do this. So let's uncomment a lot of this. So when we run this, you'll be able to see it. Okay. So you can kind of see that, hey, the dependencies are getting put in there. All right, so let's save that. So that's the app. So most of that looks familiar because it's still, we're building a serverless application. That looks the same. Where this gets different is the template file. The template file, this is a SAM template, and this is kind of the magic behind SAM itself. Now, if you're not familiar with SAM, SAM is the serverless application model, and it comes in two parts. It comes in the templates. So these are serverless specific resources. If you use CloudFormation, you go, that looks a lot like CloudFormation. That's because it is. It's built on top of CloudFormation, but we add these specific serverless resources. So in SAM, I'm going to build a function here. Here's my node data. Now notice there's no image file or anything there yet. It's just everything required to create it. And then I have some outputs to say where my server is going, where the endpoint's going to be, things like that. Not a lot here. Not going to spend a lot of time here. If you want to learn more about SAM, I have and I'll put it in the resources. I have a series that I do on Twitch called Sessions with Sam. You can look it up on YouTube, just YouTube Sessions with Sam. And I have about 23, 24 episodes that I talk through all the ins and outs of SAM. So very helpful, but you're going to see a little bit of it today. All right, so now once I've done this, let me show you some things. So all we have is just real quick, simple SAM application. So the next thing I can do, now remember when I was doing it raw, I had to create the local image to even test or do anything. But what I can do here is I can say SAM build, and it's going to do a build here. It's already done. It's already grabbed that local image. It was cached. So we're done. It shows you up here real quick. Yeah, it grabbed everything. So what that did is that created a local version of the container image, okay? So the next thing I can do is I can say SAM local invoke. Oh, hey, look at there. I did it again. ASP. I need to be under my profile. There we go. Oh, no. Hey, one of y'all should call me out. I'm not in the SAM folder. That's why I built so fast. Let's try that again. SAM build. There we go. Matt Bond, I got to know you're out there. You should have called me on that. Now, this red you're seeing, it's not a problem with SAM. It's not a problem with containers. It just doesn't like some of the NPM. It's saying, hey, some of these are deprecated. So probably need to update that in the templates. Now we have a built working version. So now I can say SAM local invoke. And because there's only one function, it's going to know what function to invoke. And there you go. So if I'm building locally and I want to develop against this, I can quickly iterate against this function. Now, once I get the function where I like it, what I can then do is I can say SAM local start API. Before we do this, I want to get into the template just a little more so you can see it. On the function, if you're not familiar with SAM, there's a couple things I want to call out. Here's the logical name of it. This tells us that it is an image-based one, so it's going to be looking for an image. All this is used to name the Docker tags, okay? This right here, every Lambda function needs an event to invoke it. This is saying my event is going to be an API of type API, and I'm going to put it on the path hello. And it's only going to accept GET. What SAM will do is it'll say, oh, okay, I see what you're doing here. You need an API endpoint. I'm going to create an instance of API gateway and map it all up, including the permissions to invoke this Lambda function for you. Now, if we'd have gone back to the raw, the console did that for us as well. But if we were pushing things by CLI, we'd have had to do some of that work ourselves, and that gets hard. SAM does all that for you, okay? So if I want to look at what that looks like locally, then I can say SAM local start API, and I hit enter. And now this kind of looks like what we saw with the raw, where we can say running on this server. Okay, so if I want to test this, let's bring up our other window again. Ooh, folks, I'm really sorry. I don't know why my machine's dragging, but it sure is. Now I can just do a simple curl local. Oh, that was it. Localhost. Watch this. So if I curl this, I got a 403. Here's why I didn't, because it only accepts on the hello path. I forgot to type hello. There we go. It builds the image, and I got my response. So now I can point, if I'm building a client, I know we got some front-end developers here that we're looking at. I can point a client at this and develop against, and I can just iterate against this until I get it working. Now, what happens if I change the code? So let's go back into our code for a moment. And I go to app.js, hello world. And instead of hello world, we're going to say hello Boston. Okay. All right. So let's see what happens. Let's curl that again. And it does not change. And here's why. I need to build again because we have to reiterate, we have to build that container again. So real quickly, I'm going to do SAM build, and there it's built. It's taking a second here. There we go. Now you can set some, there's some things like only use cached versions, things like that. So we have some control there. We're not going to get off into that because we're already, I have a lot more covered. I want to make sure to give you the good stuff on this. So now that we've done that, if I curl again, there you go. Hello, Boston. So now I can do that. Now here's a fun little thing. I don't often show third parties, but I'm going to show you this, this one here. I'm going to bring up my terminal. Okay. And I just love this. When I saw this, I thought that's the coolest thing. So I'm going to go to that. This is on my desktop, and it's Boston. Okay. And then SAM. Okay. So there's a little npm you can install, and it works with any of them. It just does the SAM build. What you might have to set some things, but it's called SAM Watch. Okay. So now I'm monitoring. I'm just going to pull this out of the way. So I'm going to go back to that code again, and I'm going to say, hello, Boston. How are you? How are you? Okay. So I'm going to save that. Okay. And then I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to go ahead and curl. Now, this time I'm not going to build. I'm just going to curl. Now, you can't see it. I'm going to pull it over here. This monitored that and has already done the build for me. So now I'm going to hit hello world, building the image, and there you go. And that's how you can work. You can iterate against your Lambda function locally to get it to where what you like, and you can ping it with your clients using this API Gateway emulator. A couple things to be aware of. This API Gateway isn't going to handle authentication. It's not going to handle some like the pseudo functions, things like that. It's just for iterating locally. Always, always, always test in a development environment. And I talk about in the session with Sam, I talk about how to use a local Lambda, but still use Dynamo, SQS, SNS, all those kind of things in the cloud to test against. All right, so now that we've got this, now we want to deploy it. Okay, so let's get rid of some of these windows so we can see a little more.
Eric,
so this is our simple application. Yeah.
Eric,
yeah.
I'm just going to give you a time check. 6:53. So like,
yes.
15, 20 minutes or so. And we do have a few questions. So just a heads up.
No problem. Yep. No problem at all. This is the same as the lion's share. So we're good.
Okay. All right, cool. And I can tell you some questions. Somebody, Don asked, what are the startup times? Does doing a regular Lambda or a container Lambda affect the keep warm or startup times?
No, there literally should be an undetectable difference between the two of them. You're going to have a startup time difference between a cold start and a warm start. And if you've used serverless already, that already makes sense to you. Sure. A cold start says, my Lambda's in storage, now we bring it out and invoke it, and it stays active from anywhere between 5 to 15 minutes, depending on some variables, right? And then it's warm start from then on. So, but no, the way this is designed, there should be undetectable differences between the two because we cache the larger images in ready to go. So hopefully that helps. All right. Any other questions I should jump on, Brian?
Let's see. There's another one. Is there any way to directly define a Lex bot from a SAM template? Yeah, you can. I won't be able to show that tonight, but yeah, if you can,
if you can do it in CloudFormation, you can do it in SAM. That's the rule of thumb, which I don't do rules of thumb, but there we are. So the rule of thumb is if you can do it in CloudFormation, you can do it in SAM, because if there's not a specific serverless resource, you can use the standard CloudFormation resources. So whatever is involved in creating the Lexbot with Lex and different things like that. If there's a CloudFormation interface, which I mean, almost all AWS resources have CloudFormation, then you can do that. So I see a question here. If my Lambda has integration with SQS or SNS, can we still test it in local through SAM? So that's a no, you can't emulate. So it depends on what you're doing. Are you putting stuff onto SNS from a Lambda function? Absolutely. The local Lambda can put stuff onto the Lambda function. Are you triggering the Lambda function from the SQS or SNS? Then obviously that would require you local. So what you do is you can do this fun little trick, is you can say SAM local generate event. Okay, typing in the wrong window. One of my biggest things. All right, SAM, there we go. Yes, SAM local generate event, and then I'm just gonna put that much, so it'll tell me what, and we will generate an event for any of these. So let's go. All right, we had the question on Lex. So what does a Lex event look like? Okay, so let's go. Here's some examples. We can say Lex book car. Okay, and there's a test event. We had SQS. So we can say generate event SQS, you hit enter, and it'll ask you what you want. So we're going to say receive message. So we're going to do a so I before E except, nope, there we go. Except after C, there it is. Message. And there is your event. There's an example of event. So what you can do is if I take, and I'll do it here, it's not going to affect it because our code doesn't look at it, but I can say SAM local invoke -e or -- event. Rob Sutter would be so proud of me. And then I'm going to pass it. Well, let me back off again real quick here. I'm going to say SAM local generate, and I'm going to output this to an event.json. Okay, so now let's try that. So then what I can do is I can say SAM local invoke. And it's going to know because I know there's only one function right now. I'm going to say -e for the event. I'm going to say event .json. And again, we can't see any results from it, but it looked at that event coming in as if it were an event coming in, and it would be found in the event structure there. So hopefully that helps. All righty. So I'm going to go on a little further, and then we'll come back to some questions. Hopefully this is helping, and here we go. So the next thing we want to do is we want to deploy this application. Okay. So first thing is we need, well, we've already created one repository for our raw one, but we want a little better way to create repositories. Now, you may be saying to yourself, Eric, just in the SAM template, the SAM template can create anything, then create the ECR repo in the SAM template. And you would be brilliant for asking that, but here's why it doesn't work, okay? When we run the build method, and then when we run deploy, the repo has to be created before and be in the CloudFormation template before CloudFormation gets it. So we run into this circular problem where I need the repo created first, but before I can do the Lambda, I need the repo URL with the Lambda already in there. So what I do is I will create a separate template that actually stores the, I can build them separately and keep them as a separate content. Let me show you what that looks like real quick here. So we're going to create under ECR repositories. I'm going to create a new file. Here we go. And we'll just call it again template. Oh, come on, Eric. Here we go. Template.yaml. Okay. Catch up with me. There we go. All right. And in this, we're simply going to say, and I'm going to copy this and paste it. Okay. Paste it. There we go. So I'm going to create a repo called Hello World Repo, but instead let's call it the SAM repo because that's what we're pushing out. Okay. All right. So the SAM repo, and what I wanted to do, I'm going to update this code right here. I wanted to tell me the name of that repo. All right. So I'm going to create this function or this repo, and when you're done creating it, let's give me the name. So I'm going to cd into that. Oh, hang on a sec, I'm in the wrong. So cd ecr. There we go. And I'm going to do SAM. So you're going to see two versions of SAM, or two examples of SAM deploy. I'm going to do SAM deploy -G. Okay. G means do it guided. I want to answer some questions. So I'm going to call this my repos, just something simple. That's the stack name. That's what the CloudFormation will be called. I want it to be done in US West 2. That's the region I'm working on. I don't need to confirm the changes. So we're just going to do that. I want it to create all the roles for me, and I want it to save everything in a CloudFormation file. I'm sorry, in a config file. So now what it's going to do is it's going to go out and actually create this repository for me, and then it's going to give me back a name. Okay, so I'm storing those in separate repo. You can do that any way you want. You can use the SAM CLI. You can manually go to Elastic, the repository. Hello. Oh, sometimes we got to look and see what we did to blow it up. All right. Oh, hello world already exists. All right, I can fix that. So the repository, and this is where I needed to change it. So we're going to say SAM repo like so. Okay. So now, wonderful. One thing about SAM is you need to you need to remove stacks. So I have a little script I wrote that goes out. So let me remove that. All right, so that removed that. So now we can send this out again. So here's the fun thing. And now that I've gone through that guided, it created a file that has all my information. I'm deploying repos is the name of it. Here's the bucket where it's storing everything. Everything. Here's the region. Everything I need is in there. So now all I have to do is say SAM deploy, hit enter, and let's see if it works this time. I really would like it to work, but they don't always work. This is the dream of live coding. All right. So now that's going, and that looks like it's going pretty well. Yes, we've got some green. All right, so that did it. So here is our URL for our repository. All right, I've created it. So let's go ahead and deploy SAM. Okay, so we're going to go CD, and I'm going to copy this because I'm going to need it in just a few minutes. Okay. All right, so I'm going to say CD. Actually, we'll just do SAM. Okay, and all right, that's where I want to be. So I'm going to say SAM. Now, this one I've not deployed yet, so I need to do the -G. So I'm going to say SAM deploy -G. I'm going to call this SAM app. We'll call it I may have one out there called that already, so we'll call this the Boston SAM app. Boston. I'm horrible with accents, so please bear with me. US West. All right. You are free to call out when I misspell. All right. So now it's asking me, what is the image repository for the hello world function? All right. So now I paste that, just the repository, and it's the URL that it wants. Okay. So I'm going to hit enter on this. And do you want to confirm changes before deploy? No, I don't need. And that basically shows you the change set. Allow SAM CLI to create my role. Then it asks this other question. It says, hey, you have a function out there, but there's no authorization on it. You don't have any kind of authorization built. Is that okay? Yes, it is for now. Normally I would add it. So save arguments to a configuration file. SAM config is fine. And off we go. So that is now creating a local. Well, we already created it from the build. It's now pushing the image to the repo that I gave it. And then it's going to build the Lambda or create the Lambda function. It's going to attach it to this image. It's going to create the API gateway instance. And when all is said and done, it's going to give me a URL and we're going to go test it. And if it doesn't work, then I'm going to hang up in shame. But I think it'll work. So we'll see how this goes. While that's doing that, because that will take a little bit of time to upload that, I was going to show you. Oh, I wanted to show you.
Eric, can I just jump in? So this is usually the time when we do our
Okay.
raffle, because people start dropping off once we hit 7. So
Raffle.
right. So
Go for it.
we have 3 Audible credits, thanks to Jen from Audible, and
Thank you.
we generally, what we do is we ask questions. People are getting tired of my sci-fi based questions, but I don't care. And the first person who answers in the Slack wins, and then you contact Jen and she'll send you the code.
Can I use the first question?
But Brian, not the Slack, the chat.
Oh, sorry,
Okay,
sorry.
good.
In the chat, in the chat. Okay.
All right.
Okay. So the first question, and this is a question that's heavy heart for me. What is the name of the Babylon 5 actress who passed away this week? Yes. Oh.
Is it Stephen Brand?
Well, Stephen got the last name. Yeah. Okay, we have the answer.
Yes.
So Furlan. Steve. Yeah, Patrick got the full name, but I think we have to give Stephen for the for Furlan. Furlan.
Jeopardy rules.
Yeah.
All right,
So
Stephen, I'm messaging you the code and the URL to redeem the code for your audio book. And if you need recommendations, let me know. Oops, accept.
Thank you very much.
Copy.
yeah, it's really
can-
it's sad. She was just a wonderful person. But and Jen, do you want to ask your question?
Yes. What is the name of the Docker logo?
Eric, you can't answer.
You can't.
Okay, yeah.
Answer. You wanted to, though, I could tell.
I was starting to, yeah.
Oh, close. Oh, Alex. Alex got it. Now I can't control my mouse. Where's my mouse? My mouse is gone. Hold on. Have to plug in my mouse. Alex, message me, and I will
Will
send
do.
you your code, provided my mouse comes back.
Sounds good, Jen. I'd like a recommendation too, please.
Okay, and then our last one for the third one, I was going to ask. Jen thought my first question was, or the question I wanted to ask was too hard, but so I'll ask a somewhat easier one. What's the name of the main ship in the Expanse? Yes, Rosinante.
Wow.
Yes.
That's impressive.
Wow. MRD Castle, yes. So
I got my mouse back. Hold on. Nobody do anything yet.
okay,
I'm
and
kidding. You can do.
so MRD Castle, contact Jen. This is not for anything but just bragging rights. Does anybody know what I wanted to ask, because Resonati is so easy, is what was the name of the ship that was destroyed in the first episode that caused the war between the MCRN and the Belters and Earth? Yes, John, for us, for the hardcore sci-fis, that is an easy question. The other one.
If you've seen the show, it is, and if you haven't seen it, it's impossible.
I know, but you have to have seen the show. It's the best show around. All right, I'll just give it out. It's the Canterbury.
Oh, I knew that.
Yep.
I didn't know that actually, but I remember that now.
Right. The Expanse is the best show on TV by far. So,
Agreed.
okay, Jen, are you caught up?
I think, did all 3 of you get your codes?
Yes.
Yes.
One more yes, and we're good to go.
Yes,
Woo!
thank you.
Well, congratulations.
Okay, and so we'll just say while we're showing the break, the next set of meetings we have on February 11th we have Jeff Barr. On March 11th we have a developer advocate, AJ, who's going to talk about AWS Cloud for .NET, which is a whole different direction for us, but that's really quite interesting. And then on February 25th, we're going to have AWS hero Amira talking about, Zamira, geez, how did I type that? Zamira talking about Control Tower. So we got all kinds of cool things coming up. As we always say, we would love to have you, our audience, our members, give talks. It can be a small talk, it can be a lightning talk. Remember, give a 5-minute talk and you get to put I talked at a meetup on your resume. So anyway, with that, I'll hand it back to Eric. Eric, maybe another 10 minutes or so.
I can beat that. I want to make sure we have questions, so we're gonna show. So if you were watching, the one thing I'm going to give a caveat that it does not take as long as it took on my screen to deploy. I am certainly having some issues with my machine. I'm probably going to throw it out the window once we're done here, but I want to finish first. So it does go faster than that. I'm like I'm not sure what's up, but what I want to show you is once that deployed, here's the address. I'll show you where I got it here. In my outputs, it gave me this API gateway endpoint right there. And if I go there, I'll refresh it so you see it. Hello, Boston. How are you? This is the IP I'm coming from. I'm not sure I should, there it is, broadcasting. So that's API gateway in front of a Lambda function handling everything you need to handle. Bare minimum with SAM. That's a serverless application. What I was going to do is add some more functions, but you get the idea. I can take and create more functions, follow the same thing, and I have several choices with SAM. I can either put each function in its own ECR repository, which is considered best practices. One function, one ECR repository. I can put all the functions in the same ECR repository, just different tags. So it's up to you how you want to do that. You can do both. When you do the SAM deploy -G, it'll ask you the repository for each one. They can be the same or different. Okay. If you want to do it by flags, you can do it by flags as well. We've documented that. But I suggest using CMG. Now, what it does is it saves it. The SAM config TOML file is where everything is stored. So if we go to ours for the SAM, you can see in here where I have stored, it has stored the image repositories. And it does it as an array. So my hello world function equals this image repository. You can manually go in here and edit this if you want and change it, add more, however you want to do that. So that's how SAM works. Okay, so real quick, I want to take a minute and show you CDK, and I'm gonna go through this pretty quick. Full disclosure, I am not a CDK expert on this. If he's still on here today, Matt Bonig is a CDK expert, and I go to him quite a bit. And so
thanks.
Well, you're welcome, buddy. He's not nice to me, but he is a CDK expert. No, that's not true. Matt's a great guy. So Matt and I have worked at multiple companies together. So
I'll second that on Matthew. Matthew's a great guy.
There we go. Yeah.
Thanks.
All right. So let's jump over and let's do this in the CDK. Now, the CDK handles the ECR repository a little differently, and I'm going to show you how that works. So let's get into our folder here, and so I'm setting the CDK folder. So I'm going to actually initialize a new CDK application. That's just simply CDK init, just like SAM. But this time I'm going to pass a couple things. I want to tell it the language I'm going to use is TypeScript. Okay, and that's one of the supported languages. They also do Python. They do Java. I think there's several others. So we're going to do TypeScript. So I'm going to go ahead and enter that. And so it's going to do several things. Okay, it does the scaffolding. It sets up everything. It adds commands, and then it's going to download everything we need. And while it's doing that, I'm going to start adding what I need while it's building that out. So we'll let that go down here. In CDK, if you're not familiar with CDK, I'm not going to walk you through all of it. It is done. Right? We're past the time. We're kind of out of scope for that. But CDK, the main file I'm going to work with is the CDK. And just because I named it CDK, it's called CDK stack. It could be Bob stack, whatever. Okay. And if you look in here, it's a very simple. This is my stack class. CDK is Cloud Development Kit. Okay. And it allows you to use code rather than configuration to create resources. And both of these, both SAM and CDK, finally end up as CloudFormation templates. So the different ways of approaching. This one is magic and you sing to get the water. SAM is just the cowboys and the horses. So if you remember that story, there's kind of the difference there. So, all right. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to copy in the code rather than walk through each part of it, so you can see it. Actually, first, before I do that, I need to install my dependencies. So CDK, each of the resources that you're going to build, they are done in they are separate packages that you need to download. And bear with me, once again, my machine is, there it is. Okay. All right, so the dependencies we're going to install, the ones I need, are APS, we're actually using API Gateway v2. So that's an HTTP API instead of a REST API. And I can do that easily in SAM as well. I'm going to use the integrations for Lambda integration, and I'm going to use AWS Lambda to actually build the Lambda itself. So let's go ahead and start that installation. And then let's bring over the code. All right. So here's what this looks like and we've got some deprecations in there, so don't worry about that. So here's what this looks like. Matt, is it still 1.86?
Yeah, 186 is good.
Okay, good. All right, good. Okay. CDK changes quite a bit, so you have to be careful with that. So let me walk you through what this looks like really quick and how this works with containers. All right, so these are just my dependencies. All right, so I installed these and I'm using HTTP API method. We won't walk through all those. Basically, here's my function, and it is a construct for a Docker image function. And I'm going to tell it my code lives under the Lambda folder. Now, right now, I don't have a Lambda folder, so I'm going to create a new folder called Lambda. Okay. And I'm going to, under that Lambda folder, I'm going to create, oops. Once again, I need an app. So it's app.js. I need a Docker file, and I'll just go ahead and I'll do an npm in there. Actually, I don't need an npm on. Well, yeah, no, I do. I'm sorry. Okay, so I'm gonna touch those, and then I'm going to npm init for my dependencies here. I'll just pump through this real quick. I say real quick here. Brian, you tell me if we need to end this, okay?
Yeah,
so I'm going as fast as I can, but yeah.
Yeah, I think as awesome as the CDK is, it's a way to deploy this particular thing. So and we do have a bunch of questions.
Okay, let's do the questions, and I could show this another time. There's also different places we've shown that. But that's the basic way you do it. And once I set up the app, I would do CDK deploy, and there we go. So let's do the questions, and we'll see what time does for us.
And not to put him on the spot, but I've asked Matthew periodically about giving a talk on CDK, and hopefully now we can get him to do that at some point.
He's the one for it. He's very, very good at it. So
okay. And Eric, so we have a bunch of questions, but I actually want to use organizer's privilege and ask you one question myself, jumping the line, which is, I've written a lot of Lambdas. What would cause me to say this next bit of code that I would normally just write as a Python Lambda, gosh, I want to make it as a container Python Lambda?
All right. So that's the question, right? Why? And so we go back to what it is and what it isn't. And so the reasons you would do this are, number one, to take advantage of the space, right? So instead of a 250 megabyte limitation for a zip file, you have up to 10 gig in a container. So right there, that's a big one. The second thing is what tooling do you use? This really is directed, a lot of times it's directed at people who use, or companies that use container building tooling already and don't want to switch tools to work in the serverless area. So they're able to stay with container image building tools like Docker, like different things like that. So, and that's why we really want to declare, or we really kind of explain that this isn't just, grab any Docker, run it on Lambda, because that's not what we're saying. It's the tooling that we're enabling to build these services. And then obviously the bigger spaces, things like that. Does that hopefully help out?
Yep.
Okay.
Cool.
Can I ask a quick follow-up to that? So today, actually, I just stumbled on a package that said, oh, I should use this. And I saw it had a dependency on C Python. And I got, okay, I don't have to build a layer to kind of get that, or package that in to build it natively. So is the container a good way to sort of handle those package dependencies that you have to, you have to compile natively? Is it easier to do on a container, do you think, rather than spinning up an EC2 so you can make your package?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's another way. So you think about that, am I building it and bringing over stuff, or does it kind of all need to be there? So all needs to be there. That container is a great way of doing that. If you're just compiling stuff for a Lambda function, you can actually, even before we ever brought in containers, there's a little flag you can put in SAM, and you can say SAM build -- use container, and it'll use an Amazon Linux container to compile anything you have in there. And it's very helpful for getting those compiled to the right architecture. But hopefully that helps answer. It is a great way to,
thread that connects us all.
it is a great way to do that. One of the other questions along that, and I'll look at these questions in a second, is layers are something we use with zip-based Lambda functions. Now those layers can be involved, or can be just part of your container rather than stacking on layers. That's another way of doing it. If you have layers that you use, Julian Wood, one of our other developer advocates, has written an article on bringing those into containers as well. So, all right.
We got a question on if my Lambda uses SQS or SNS, can I still test it locally with SAM?
Yeah, I think we covered that earlier.
Okay.
And I talked about if you're pushing to it or pulling from it, or being invoked from it. Yep.
Okay. Next one was CloudWatch logs acting differently for Lambda containers.
I haven't noticed that. If you have an example of that, I would encourage you to shoot me an email. So they should be, as far as the runtime is concerned, they should be the same. You might have some extra metadata around the container itself that you're getting, but as far as their behavior, they should be identical.
Okay, I'm just scrolling through the chat.
Sure.
Do you have to use the AWS Container Registry for containers on Lambda?
So no, if you think about the way the Docker file works, I mean, you build Docker images all day long with Docker Hub or something like that. So you push them to the container registry for them to be used in Lambda. So maybe there's two parts to this question that just occurred to me. Yes, you have to store them in ECR for Lambda functions to be able to get at them. No, you don't have to pull images like in SAM. They can come from anywhere. But I think yours is more the second. Yes, right now you need to store them in ECR for Lambda functions to be able to get at them. Sorry, I turned that around on myself.
Okay, I think that's it. If people have follow-up questions, or if I've missed anything, put them in the Slack. I'll get them to Eric and then get the responses back in our Slack. So I'm going to say this was awesome. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, community. I think we have the best community going here, and I love the fact that we have people from all over the world joining us. It's the upside. We found the upside for the pandemic. So yeah. So excellent. Everybody stay safe. For next, I'll say we actually hit the limit of 100 people attending the meeting, and Zoom actually cut us off, and some people couldn't attend. For the next one that's Jeff Bars, we're going to go for the 300. We're going to pony up the money for the bigger plan.
Wow,
good job.
Right.
Yeah, what a good problem to have. Oh my God.
Yeah, that is great. Yeah. Hey, I just want to real quick say thank you so much for having me. This was a blast, and it was easy to do, and y'all were just awesome. And thank you so much.
Okay, and
Appreciate
so
you having us. Great talk.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
thank you very much.
and we look forward to
Thanks,
the CDK talk from Matthew in sometime, and we'll talk offline about scheduling that. And remember, think about lightning talks.
Sorry, just
Yeah,
quick question. How do we get access to the resources that you had? I might have missed this.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
yeah. I'm so sorry. Yeah. So let me
No,
pop,
no
let me
worries.
share my screen again. Well, I'm glad you said. So I'm gonna pop this up, Brian. Sorry, give me 1 second here. I'm just sitting here staring at you. Okay, so I have a shortener that we've got. So this is the barcode and the Boston AWS SUG. So grab a screen cap of this, and it'll take you to this link. And there's a couple, and then I'm probably going to add some more. So check it in the next couple of days as well, because it talks about some things I didn't think I was going to talk about today. So I'll add those in there. But there you go. Oh, I'm glad you said something. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to seeing everyone next time. Don't forget, usually it'll be on Thursday. Today's just an odd case, so don't show up on the wrong day. And kind of like what Brian was saying with the lightning talks, if anyone else has any other ideas or things to do, feedback to help make this community and these events or anything outside these events better, just feel free to start a discussion on Slack. Let us know. Feedback is great, and help us make this even better.
Yeah. And if you need to reach out to me, I really encourage you to follow me on Twitter at EDJGeek. I answer as many questions as I can.
All right, excellent. And
All
it's
right.
funny, someone is just trying to join the meeting right now. All
They're
right.
just coming
Welcome.
for the leftovers.
Yeah, take
There you
care.
go. Bye,
See
all.
you,
Thank
everyone. Be safe.
Take care. All.